Hi, I'm Jim McCann, founder of 1-800-Flowers. We created this podcast to share the wonderful people we get to interact with, we get to meet, we get to know, and most importantly, get to learn from. So I invite you to join us on this journey here on the Celebrations Chatter podcast. Sara Cunningham, you have a book called How We Sleep at Night, and I just think your story is such an important story to be told. I think there are so many parents who are dealing with what you dealt with, and I think you allowing us to walk on your life's journey is important. I think it's important for you folks, but I think it's important for so many other parents who have or will deal with a situation that you did. And I think your journey, your grace, your candor about the emotions and the roller coaster ride you've been on is so worth telling and so comforting to so many. I think there's so many lessons that you'll bring to the fore that are important for all of us to learn, whether we're dealing with the situation you did or other circumstances that challenge us. So thanks for being with us today, and thanks for sharing your story with us.
Well, thank you, and for the encouragement. It goes a long way, and it's validating to me. And I do hope that my story, our story, would just save any family from going through what we went through. So that's the reason for my transparency.
But it's nice that you can say it in the past tense.
Yes, yes, I say it all the time too. I'm glad to be on this side of the story for sure. For sure, it's been a journey. But I am very transparent because I feel like there's a mom out there like me then who needs to hear from a mom like me now. And what I would have done to have had maybe listened to something like this on a podcast, or to have just been introduced to someone like me, not to boast or brag in any way. But born and raised here in Oklahoma City. There was a time that I would beg my mother, please don't let me be buried here, because I thought it was so boring at the age of 16. But now that I'm 60, I can't imagine living anywhere else.
Grew up a religious person. You have, am I correct, 3 children?
I have 2 boys, and I grew up under the Christian faith, but not consistently a church goer. I would go when they were having free hot dogs or game night, whenever the other neighborhood kids were going. I'd hop on that bus, Sunday school bus with them, and for VBS and things like that. But once I have my first child, our first child with my husband, I got serious about, my faith and just trying to be a good adult with morals and to raise our family accordingly.
So you have 2 boys, and your youngest son, Parker, uh, comes to you one day and rocks your world.
Yes, he does. He said, "Mom, I met someone and I need you to be okay about it." And I was not. I behaved badly, and I said some things and acted in ways that I regret, even today.
The fact that he met someone isn't a surprise. The fact that it was another man that he wanted to share his life with was a surprise.
Yes. Not necessarily a surprise in the way like I was blindsided, because we had had conversations along the way, but I just was in complete denial. I thought it was a phase. But when Parker took a stand as a gay man, that's when I really had to face the reality. Like, I do have a gay child, and that was the reality check for me.
There's in the last decade or so, there's been so much about uh, not discriminating against people who are a little different than the norm, perhaps. Certainly, the whole LGBT community movements have been interesting, but too often the impact of having a gay child is overlooked. We're so concerned about the individual himself or herself that we sometimes forget that there are siblings involved, parents, sometimes grandparents, certainly friends and other extended family members. It has an impact on them too. Not always negative, but certainly an impact. And I think your story brings to light the fact that these people are not on a journey on their own, and that it has the impact it has is a journey that you need to go through as a parent so that you can be your best self and learn to deal with something that you really weren't preparing for.
That is correct. I had this preconceived idea of the life I had envisioned for my son, and it certainly didn't include being a homosexual. And so you have to re examine every thought and idea you had for your child, especially when they take a stand, no matter where, whether it's a career or in a case like this, being homosexual. Uh, but it just is a reality check, and the ripple effect of this, how I reacted, had a ripple effect to those around me, including our oldest son. And luckily, my husband was an ally uh, before I was. And thank God Parker had his father. The ripple effect, our extended family, how they reacted to it, um, is really, it really does affect the entire family and everything that you preconceived, or even your faith walk. You have to deconstruct and reconstruct. Why do I believe what I believe? And anyway, it is a journey, and it's not one that some takes alone. Now, I do hear from the community that oftentimes they have to come out every day, whether it's in the workplace or say a couple meets and they're getting engaged and they want to shop for a ring or flowers. They need to make sure that they're with allies, and it's a constant coming out.
And how long ago was this that Parker came out to you?
Yeah. This was in, again, he tried his whole life, his adolescence life. We had conversations throughout his young
What do
adult.
you mean he tried his whole life?
Well, he tried to have conversations like at the kitchen sink, or when he turned like 15, going through high school, adolescence, he tried to have conversations with me, but I did not allow a space or the vocabulary to have those conversations. And it made it very difficult, to where he had to check himself at the door in his own home at a place of worship, and I just wasn't having it. I manipulated the conversation. I thought it was a phase. I shamed him with the very best of intentions, and again, it was, and I missed an entire adolescence of his life because I just didn't have the time or the space or the vocabulary to allow him to express himself as he needed to.
Sarah, as a mom, what were your fears? You know, in your book, How We Sleep at Night, what were you put your head on the pillow? What is running through your mind as you say you were blocking him from a honest and open conversation with you because you didn't want to confront those realities because it engendered certain fears in you for him? What are they?
My first and foremost fear was for his salvation. I had grown up and absorbed this idea that homosexuality was the most grievous offenses one could have towards our faith, towards the doctrine of being a Southern Baptist, and that I really believed at that time, and it sounds absurd to even repeat this, but I really did believe that Parker was going to burn in eternity, burn in hell for eternity, and I was frozen in that fear. And beyond that, the reality is hate crime. You heard about the Matthew Shepard story. The hate crimes that's happening across the country are quite alarming, even so today. And so I was fearful for him, being discriminated against. And even in 30 states today, my son could be denied housing, health care, even thrown out of a public space because of how he identifies. That's in 30 states. And when I started this journey in 2014, it was 29 states. Before that, I had no clue. I had no idea what was happening. So I was very fearful that he would be harmed, discriminated against, and even worse, burned for eternity in hell. Isn't that crazy?
One of the more powerful and damaging emotions that we have is shame. Was there any shame involved for you?
Yes, shame. I heard a teaching on this, a theological teaching on shame recently, and it talks about how shame really is the sin. In when we shame each other, when we shame ourselves, but there's no. The reality is that there's no shame in us. There's no condemnation in us. And once we can get past and seeing the gift that you bring and that my son brings to this world, and what a gift we are to this world and to families like ours, when you can see past that, you can really celebrate another person and even yourself.
Tell us your journey, Sarah. When did things begin to change for you? I think you went to an event and you wore a T-shirt a lot like the one you have on now.
Yes. Yes. What changed first and foremost was seeing my son happy and healthy and living authentically, meeting his friends and hearing their stories and knowing the journey that I had been on myself, and then to actually intentionally meet the gay community at an Oklahoma City Pride Festival and being exposed to this beautiful spirit filled community. And then I got plugged in and started volunteering at the Second Chance Prom or with the Oklahoma City Pride Board or a clothing closet. And then just started hearing about how the relationships had been, members of the community had been alienated from their own family. And so I made a homemade button. I have it right up there. I should have gotten it for the call, but
What's it say on that button?
let me get it. This is the OG.
You wore that Free Mom Hugs button to the Oklahoma City rally. And what happened?
With anyone who made eye contact with me, I would say, "Can I offer you a free mom hug or high five?" Because not everybody's a hugger. And the first hug I gave went to a beautiful girl who said it had been 4 years since she had a hug from her mother because she's a lesbian. And from that experience, we started the nonprofit Free Mom Hugs. And now this logo is recognized worldwide. But if I could just go back for a moment prior to wearing the button, it was hearing stories from members of the gay community who had been alienated from their homes, from their church families, and from many parts of society. And the one thing I heard the most on that day, that very first day at that Pride Festival, is that these beautiful people had lost their sense of belonging. And it moves me even still today. And that's the mission of Free Mom Hugs, is to empower the world to celebrate this beautiful community through visibility, through education, and through conversation, because those things are what changed my heart, my mind, and my understanding. When I saw other people celebrating my son before I knew if I should, could, or would, because the doctrine, the faith that I grew up, the bad theology that I had been absorbed taught me that if I accepted my son, not even celebrate him, that made me just as much of a sinner as he was. And I use air quotes there because I do believe the gay community is a gift from God to this world.
I wonder in your book how you talk about how we sleep at night. So it seems like for those adolescent years in Parker's life, you were in denial and living with shame. And then it seems after you've gone through your journey and you and your son rebuilt a relationship around honesty and authenticity and acceptance, now I bet it shifted to shame about how you were shameful.
Oh my goodness, absolutely. And people say, "Well, Sarah, you need to forgive yourself." And I have. And Parker and I, we've worked through a lot, and we still are working through. I did a lot of harm with the very best of intentions.
And Free Mom Hugs as an organization seems like a way to say, I can redeem myself, I can do good, and I can help other people, and that'll help me on my journey.
I hope so, because it really truly was, seeing other people celebrate my son and seeing other people accept him. In the book, the last chapter, it was inspired and written out of inspiration from standing at the Pride Parade with our son and his friends. And so Free Mom Hugs is not mentioned in this book because it wasn't even on my radar.
Hi, I'm Jim McCann.
And I'm George Everly Jr.
During the COVID-19 epidemic, I stumbled upon an article that Dr. George wrote, which had a real strong impact on me in terms of how COVID was and was likely to impact our social connections, our relationships. And it really, really resonated with me. So I reached out to George, basically wrote him a fan letter, and that began our relationship.
We found a mutual interest in helping people become their best selves, especially in times of adversity.
Together, we embarked on a quest to co-write Lodestar. That journey began with countless hours of researching the most impactful self-help books out there.
Once we had our picks, we combined the science with the practical
The result of our journey? The creation of a one-stop shop for the best of the best in self-help.
We decided to write this book to help others go from where they are to where they want to be and be the best possible selves they could be.
So if you're looking to boost your career, build stronger relationships, or simply become the best version of yourself, Lodestar is here to guide you on your path.
So, but tell us about Free Mom Hugs today. Where is it active? How many people are involved? Tell us about the byproduct of your work here.
Yes, Free Mom Hugs started here in Oklahoma City, and a couple of moms and we would show up at Pride festivals. We had a banner made with Free Mom Hugs, and we would show up at Pride festivals or second chance proms and just anything that we could do to be that loving presence in the lives of those who need it the most. And we started with helping with gas cards or help pay the phone bill or whatever we could do, help with a bus ticket to a safe place for some people, whatever we could do. And then I had a social media post go viral, and that's when I started officiating for same-sex weddings. Listen, that's something I had to search that matter out too. What do I believe about that? But I do honor same-sex marriage just as holy and as sacred as my own. I started hearing about how families were refusing to come to the wedding and not acknowledging the relationship, something that I had to go through too. And so I had a social media post go viral, and soon word got out about what we were doing here with Free Mom Hugs, and then everybody wanted to do that. It offered a platform for people to show up and do something, and now we have Free Mom Hugs chapters all throughout the country. We have some internationals that are inspired by the work of Free Mom Hugs, and we have events planned throughout the year. We held our very first Free Mom Hugs conference last year. We had started a Free Mom Hugs podcast. And listen, about our conference, it's all about education, those aspects of being visible at Pride festivals, wherever we can show up and be visible allies, and then to educate, no matter where you stand, historically, scientifically, scripturally, on what it means to be gay or have a gay family member or friend. That how scripture has been, I believe, horribly misused, misunderstood, and even misinterpreted. And there's scholars and theologians that are proving this to this day. There's films out, there's all sorts of resources. We have it on our website. But their only choice really is to remain in a position of fear and ignorance because there is so much information out. And one turning point for me too, was a pivotal moment, was hearing testimonies from gay Christians. The first, because this is a religion, a bad theology that's caused this entire mess that we're in today. Not only with the gay community, but with any people group that's the minority. Once you see it here, you see it everywhere among women, among people with color, how bad theology and abuse of power are the crux of everything that is causing great harm and destruction to people, to their families, and to the community.
Sarah, you've been on this journey for many years, but turning point back in 2014. So in that last 10-year period, how have things changed? How have they changed in your community, in your family, in your church? How are things different 10 years later?
For one thing, I think the younger generation has access to just of self-discovery, and they're being more vocal about it. There's more information out now for people to be educated on the subject, and people are being allies are being more vocal. Members of the community are being more visible. That's on a professional level, something that I'm seeing. I'm seeing families have authentic relationships with their children, and that's the goal.
Uh-huh.
And I have a friend that says, as the home goes, so does the world, and I believe that. On a personal note, honestly, full transparency here, Parker and I are still working through things. As wonderful as Free Mom Hugs is, there's been that transition. Like once he came out, and then all of a sudden we went viral, we didn't have time to kind of put things in perspective.
Rebuild those bridges, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're still working on that. I can't speak highly enough about good therapist, good therapy, and talking things through and working things through, because now we're having to repair the damage done. And it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight.
So you mentioned the benefit of the access to good therapists, good therapy. You speak to a young mom today. She's got a teenage child, young teen, and she has her concerns and suspicions. Speak to her. Tell her how she should think about it, how she should move forward.
Precious parent, you have a child here who perhaps are just beginning to express how they feel or how they identify. Allow them the space, the vocabulary to have the conversation. How you react is going to have a ripple effect in your family and your children. When they show you who they are, believe them, and surround yourself with people who bring a diversity into your life that may have different faith traditions. If everyone looks like you and talks like you and believes the same way as you, then you need to expand your world. And there's such diversity in this essence of humanity that brings about a beautiful dynamic, not only to your family, to your world, and this gift in your child or children as they're learning and on this journey of self discovery. You have an opportunity to give life and to just build up your child and just celebrate them, gay or straight.
What about seeking help?
There's so much information out there and resources. There's moms. What I needed to hear is someone who shared my faith that it's all right to search the matter out, because when you do, that's when you get educated and you begin to see things in a whole new light. You don't have to lose your faith. You don't have to walk away from your faith tradition. So therapies out there. I had to look around. I found a therapist that is a part of the community, who understands family dynamics and who understands the nonprofit world. That way, it helps me to have a proper, healthy perspective in what I'm doing as a human being, as a mother, as a woman of faith.
How are you sleeping now?
Much better. I sleep very good, very well.
That's good and important. What's next for you? What's next for Mom Hugs?
For Mom Hugs, we're planning our second conference. We do have the podcast. We had our first season out, very successful. It's titled Pride 365, and that's talking about being a prideful, celebrating Pride 365 days a year. And so, again, with chapters all across the country who are doing amazing work. We just got through our 7th Pride season as a national nonprofit, and I couldn't be more proud of the work that our allies are doing, our volunteers are doing across the country, working on their own programs to be that loving presence where they're at.
And of course, the moms who are part of Free Mom Hugs, it's doing for others, but it's also doing a lot for them, for themselves, right?
It's definitely a win-win, definitely a win-win. And we use mom, the word mom, in an action verb. All are welcome. The only requirements that we have is that you are a strong and faithful ally. And by that, I mean that you honor the LGBTQ plus community, you honor same-sex marriage, and you're just a strong and faithful ally. And we have members of the community who volunteer for us, but that you're fully affirming. And that means you celebrate the community wholeheartedly.
And so you've seen a lot of progress in 10 years. Your journey has been a steep climb and a journey for connection, relationship, information, education, and overcoming your fears, your shame, and trying to repair the relationship and take a good relationship and continue to make it better. That's inspiration for us all, Sara. I think what you do is amazing. For those who might be interested, where is that second conference going to be held? Where and when?
Well, we haven't announced it yet. We're still looking at the venue. We're about to confirm one probably this week, and then we'll make the announcement. You can go to freemomhugs.org. We will be making the official announcement with the dates and the location at that time. And You can find the resources there. You can get plugged into your local chapter, and that'll keep you in the loop of everything happening locally. And if I could, I do need to go back and say something about, you say, where are we 10 years from now? As I mentioned earlier about the Equality Act, when I started this journey, Jim, it was 29 states that were discriminating
And
legally
now it's
against,
30. It's gone the wrong way.
and now it is 30. So as wonderful as what the work that we're doing at Free Mom Hugs, for example, in Oklahoma, just this year, we had more anti-LGBTQ plus bills than anywhere else in the country. This year, we have an educational superintendent that's, forcing teachers to out their students, to have history taught from the Bible, 10 Commandments. Listen, I'm all in favor. I'm a woman of faith. There was a time that I would have voted for that and praised it, but now I see the dangers in bad theology and abuse of power. So, yes, things are wonderful in the mission and the movement of Free Mom Hugs, but this political climate that we're in is dangerous and really quite uncertain, alarming. And these are all things that I wasn't even aware of until I had skin in the game. Do you understand? So probably 70% of Americans have no idea about the 30%. But that's why we need to allies to do more.
With the 30 states.
Yeah, so I'm glad for conversations like these.
Well, thank you for sharing your story, Sarah, because for parents and siblings and family members and friends of people who are wrestling with their own identities, those circumstances are very real. And as you point out, while there's been success in your family and a education-filled and awakening-filled journey for you and your family, it's not been the case that in the 10 years there's been nearly enough progress. But I think it's people like you who want to have the conversations, who want to be vulnerable and allow for different points of view and opinion, but allow for good, healthy, civil dialogue, which results in learning and education. I think therein lies the key. Being quiet about it or trying to legislate it isn't going to bring any satisfactory outcomes for anyone. But I think by having good, thoughtful, civil discourse and good, honest dialogue like you foster, I think in there lies good outcomes for all of us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So thank you, Sarah, for your work. And thank you for sharing your story, because we all know parents who are wrestling with this or have, and the fact that you're willing to share your journey, your emotional stages that you've gone through, and the fact that you've gotten to a place where you are sleeping very well and filled with hope and a sense of pride of your accomplishments personally and community-wise gives those parents a lot of hope. And for that, I applaud you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this platform. And to those of you listening, I just would encourage you to find out what you can do today to be vocal, to be visible, to educate, even if it's yourself, and just do what you know needs to be done where you're at to make this world safer, kinder, more loving for everyone.
Thank you, Sara Cunningham, and good luck with Free Mom Hugs. I can't wait to get one in person someday.
Oh, it can't happen soon enough, Jim. Thank you so much. And thank you for what you do, using your platform for voices like mine.
My pleasure. Thank you, Sarah.
We put our heart into everything we do. We are farmers, bakers, florists, and makers who grow and create with a passion. Made with love at every step of the way. Because at the end of the day, we know you're sending more than a gift. 1-800-Flowers, share with love.
Well, I hope you enjoyed what you heard, and I know I'll be sharing it forward. I hope you get to as well. Let's keep the conversation going. Follow me along on Twitter at Jim1800Flowers and on LinkedIn at Jim McCann. Hope to talk to you soon.